Welcome to Commander Community, this show where we discuss everything, the people, the places, and the things beyond the tabletop of Magic the Gathering's most popular format, brought to you by Star City Games.
I'm Anthony Alongi.
And I'm Sheldon Menery. In each episode, we'll address one or more hot-button issues in the Commander community. We'll talk about current events and the intersection of our hobby with life in general, whether that's nerd culture, food, booze, really anything at all.
And I am still 100% likely to ask Sheldon, what the hell is wrong with you?
Well, what's wrong with me today, Anthony, is that yesterday you got a chance to play at CommandFest Online while I had some other commitments.
Yeah.
So this was your first CommandFest Online experience. Give us the review.
I will even say first CommandFest experience because I was unable to attend previous in-person events as well. I've been doing other events, but not that I didn't get a chance to happen to do those one or two that has happened in the past. I liked it, and I'm looking forward. We're recording on a Sunday, the Sunday of CommandFest, and I'll pop back in again and do a few more games later today. So I liked it enough to keep doing it.
Cool. Yeah, I'm going to move right into this. Right after we finish recording this, as a matter of fact, I'm going to move into the RC panel that we're going to do. And then immediately after that, I have a game with some notables.
Excellent.
Some notables.
Well, I've enjoyed the games that I've had. I had 4 games yesterday, kind of in and out. I took a more casual approach to it. Didn't slam games all day, but I did some really, let's just say 3 out of the 4 were delightful. And one, nobody did anything particularly wrong. We had one who canceled without canceling, another one, and then the other 2 players just clearly didn't like each other.
Oh, great.
And so you just wanted to leave, but you can't. Right. So you're watching them, and they both, and I'm perfectly fine that people have phones that they can connect, but they both had them at angles with bad dim light, and I couldn't see the cards, and I couldn't click on them to get the thing. Like, there's really cool software. That spell table stuff is great. You can click on the thing, you can see it normally. I couldn't. So everybody had to keep, and nobody could. So everybody had to keep asking everybody. So what is that thing? And then definitely one person was doing something else and was distracted. So another person quit in the middle of it, so it was just down to me and the person who wasn't paying attention, and I was just like, oh, let me just finish this off. So
yeah,
I mean, what a classic example of having won the game and not caring. It's not what the game's about.
Lost, you're right, and having lost at the same time.
Everybody lost. But I mean, I don't want to dwell on that. The other 3 games were just wonderful, and I'm really grateful to the other players.
Now you were careful to take the advice of those great hosts of Commander Community and not play bribery.deck in your online games.
No, all the decks I played 4 different decks yesterday, and all of them are tuned. Like, there's one thing that maybe pulls something from a graveyard, maybe that kind of thing. That's really there for different reasons, but certain things can happen. But that's not I don't do the bribery style decks or anything like that with this sort of thing where you're doing that. I also I didn't do a game over power level 6. I went looking for 3, 4. It was hard. I think they need to take the scale and just bring it down to a 5-point scale, honestly. If they're going to use one dimension, which I disagree with, then they just need to take it down to 5 numbers. It's enough. And people will just sort it from there.
Well, I mean, offer them your feedback. I'm sure they're receptive.
I will. I know that they work very hard, and I gotta say the logistics are very, very good. The logistics of this and finding it. It took me a while, but that's just because I'm old. It took me a while to figure it out, but there's nothing wrong with how they're doing it. I was able to figure it out within a few minutes and then get on a game without too much difficulty. So the logistics, Channel Fireball has done a very nice job. I look forward to seeing the panel with you later today, sir.
Cool. All right, let's move on into the A block.
Let's. So, speaking of connections with people and meeting up and playing with great people, I understand that you've got one of them projects that you like to do underway. You're up to something, Sheldon. Don't think I don't know. And it's loosely called something like a Commander Boxing League.
You understand because you're one of the people involved.
That may be, sure. I was trying to lead you in subtly, what the hell is wrong with you?
I guess subtlety's not my brand. So the idea of the league was suggested to me by friend of the show and Pro Tour historian Brian David Marshall. And the short version is it's kind of a commander sealed deck with an expanding pool. My article, as folks are watching this, my article from the previous week will be a more detailed explanation. But the short version is your initial pool comes from opening a single box of a core expansion set and then building a commander deck from there. A 100 card, all the other commander rules apply from there. After that, you get to open 6 booster packs and add them to your pool each week. With the catch, you can't open packs from a set that you've already opened. So I, for example, am starting with Ikoria. Mm-hmm. So when I start cracking boosters, Ikoria is off the table.
Yep. Yeah. So you've gathered some. I mean, this is a cool thing, by the way. I just love. Thank you for letting me in the door, so to speak. You've gathered some really high profile people here. So you've got Brian's obviously in it. His idea, so we let him in, I guess. Whatever. Yeah. Then you've got, of course, Gavin Verhey, who's Wizards of the Coast kind of commander architect, product architect for all that. You've got your fellow members. You've got your Scott Larrabees and your Toby Elliott's there. You've got your CAG members. You got Olivia Gilbert Hicks from that group. You've got from the Command Sphere, Rachel Weeks. We've got your Goblin Lore podcaster, Thomas Hobbs-Q. You've got Ben Wheeler from Loading Ready Run. You've got Chase from Mana Curves, and you've got me.
Yeah, if we weren't friends, I think I might dagger you by saying something like, one of these things is not like the other.
Every constellation has its dimming star, my friend. So important to the constellation. It's in that key spot. You wouldn't recognize it for the shape it was if it weren't for that slowly, inevitably dying star.
Right. So we've also added Shivam Bhatt from the CAG since we scripted this.
Yes.
And
sorry, Shivam. I should have known that. I've talked with Shivam online about it.
And there's a possibility that 1 or 2 more people might come on. Mm-hmm. I wanted to keep it intentionally small because I didn't know, how the logistics of it were going to be.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to it's meant to be a fun diversion, not an onerous project. So,
right.
Gavin Duggan from the RC is probably going to join us, and there's some chance that Rashad Miller is going to join us.
That'd be outstanding. And honestly, I think you're right to keep this. I mean, make this a demonstration project. It's not.
Right.
This should be, and we'll talk more about this in a moment. But I think one of the most brilliant things about this, I honestly do believe this is going to be. I think the future of Commander. We can talk more about it in another episode. I don't know if we have time today, but I actually think the future of Commander lies in this sort of experiment.
Interesting.
I think that Magic, what we're about to see, I believe, is that Commander will now do it's not really a microcosm because it's a massive movement. It has more players, I think, active now playing Commander than were in Magic back when Magic first split into multiple formats and they had Type 1, Type 2, right? And then they started to develop a limited, formats. And I think that Commander is finding that it needs to do the same. And I believe that's where it will go. That's neither here nor there for this week. But I love it as my bottom line. And I think that we can show that there are ways to engage in Commander and think about Commander, even if it never goes where I think it's going to go. There's ways that we can think about Commander and doing Commander differently that will keep Commander fresh and keep the spirit of Commander going. So that's the important.
Yeah, I think that's a really good lead into the fact that it was our intention today to not talk about the technical details of the league, but the social ones, the implications, the upshots, and how it's going to help us go into Commander's future.
Yeah, it's like, one of the things that often gets ignored in communities is that you form them and then you got to keep them together, right? And most of the times you want communities to develop organically, but you also have to do things that actively, you have to be proactive. You can't just say, okay, I'm Sheldon, I've made this thing, you are all, are all doing it now. Just go forth and be awesome.
Right.
We have to do things. You have to do things, and the rules committee and other people and other content creators like me and others have to do things like almost like tending the garden or whatever it is. And I what I like most about the league is it's at its current size, and it's great. Bring in the other names that you said, please. But it's like hosting a small party, and with an emphasis maybe on smallish, like small, at least to start. And I think other people who learn to do this will want to try it first as that small party model.
Yeah, 8 to 12 seems like it's really manageable.
Yeah.
You can talk to everybody.
Yeah.
You don't risk you're sort of letting people drift off to the side, forgotten because they're not getting involved as much.
Yeah.
I think the core needs to stay strong, and somebody needs to be the hub around which the communication revolves.
Right.
But to making sure that you kind of have this box, and you're the goalie kicking everybody back into play.
Yeah.
So the real thing is the intention here is to have fun and play games, like I said. Yeah. The side benefit, I think, is reminding us that it's people who make communities. So regardless of what activity brought us together, it's about getting together with those people.
Yeah.
And, I play with Scott, Toby, Olivia pretty regularly. So branching out to play regularly with other people, especially those people who, like the folks we've gathered, who are also very busy playing with other people, is really refreshing.
Right. Yeah, I really like the idea. Like I go back to, a decade or more ago, and multiple people that I was writing with and stuff, and I would see them, but I wouldn't really see them. Maybe I'd see them at an event, and they said, "Hey, I'd really like to catch a game with you. I want to get into a multiplayer game with you, Anthony." Yeah, sure, let's do it. And every once in a while we would do it, but sometimes it started to feel like you don't want it to degenerate into, oh yeah, there you are again. Hey, we should play sometime. Yeah. It starts to feel perfunctory, right? It starts to feel like maybe you don't mean it, and that are insincere, and that's not where you want to go as a community. So when you start having more social media and have more people that you're meeting, and there are literally dozens of people out there that I've had either private messages with or Twitter conversations where you're like, oh yeah, we got to have a multiplayer game together. We got to do a game of Commander together. And I want that to be real. I'm sure they do too. I think we all want that to be real. And here's a way of doing that. Like you could do a thing. You could create a league and you could just be with that player and do that game in that format with that player. So that's what I really like about this opportunity, is that it does. I like to think of it as, I think Boxing League's kind of a cute way of putting it, but I actually like the dinner party. I like it's an EDH dinner party kind of deal, and but it over spread out, a novena, if you will, of dinner parties spread out over multiple days.
As long as you don't become drunk uncle, it'll be fine.
I remember back in the mothership.
Yeah. So one of the things that I paid attention to,
folks, by the way, sorry.
Right. One of the things I paid attention to when we were doing this, and the people that I reached out to first were some other big content creators, because they have platforms.
Yeah.
Olivia has a streaming channel that's really popular. Ben Wheeler has a huge streaming following. So we have Chase has has her own channel. So we have people that have places where we can feature this, and obviously the RC has our channel. Yeah. So we have places where it's not just sort of well-known people removing themselves from the public eye in order to play in their secret cabal of games. Right. It's bringing these games to everybody. Yeah. It's getting them out there and showing the raw fun that we're going to have with the league.
Right. Well, and I know that you're anxious. You are riddled with anxiety, my friend. I know. And care. It's not entirely true. You're riddled with care about other people, and I know that you have some anxiety, natural anxiety about being exclusionary. And so, I just want to I think that's a great sentiment to have, but I also think that it's something that we are not in danger of. Like I said, if this is a demonstration project, and it's meant to be repeated, a pilot, if you will, that's meant to inspire more, and I like it.
Yeah, it is. It is a constant concern. I don't know if I want to go as far as anxiety, but it's a constant concern that, well, there he goes getting together with his famous friends again. And there have been a lot of people who have said, oh, hey, how do I get in on this?
Right.
And the answer has been, hey, well, why don't you do one? Right. You know, we're intentionally keeping this small right now because logistics. Right. And that really is all about logistics. It's not that we don't want to hang out with people that we don't necessarily know or only know sort of tangentially. Right. It's that the logistics of putting this together, we got to see where and how, and what does really being in a league mean? Yeah. You know, that because at a certain point, you're gonna, you know, if you have 80 people doing this in the same group, you really do lose the thread, right?
Yeah.
If there are 80 people and you play a different person every week,
you're not.
It's still going to be, you know, it's still going to be 5 months until you play with each person.
Yeah.
And that's assuming that you play a game a week.
Yeah. And I mean, I can see stunt versions that try that just for kicks and giggles, you know, 80 people who actually maybe somehow sort of know each other a little bit, trying this just for kicks and giggles. But in terms of what I think people will find satisfying, you know, one of my predictions is that, you know, there's going to be an optimal size of a league like this. That's probably on that order. But it's going to be a multiple of 4, probably, so that you can have a schedule where everybody feels like at least once a week you're trying to play. I also think it's going to be fine if you log additional games each week. I think that it's going to be one of those things where you can have 2 or 3 different games and formations, and maybe you have official games, maybe you have unofficial games, whatever the case may be. But I like the idea of just taking a small, modest multiple of 4, putting them together in a league, and we should test some theories. Like, you know, can you do it with fewer than 12? Can you do it with really more than 24? I suspect you can, but you won't find it as satisfying. But yeah, I think you'll have some good fuel for some of your articles coming up. Maybe we'll have some fuel for a future show on this as well. And I am honored to be part of it. Thank you. And I am also looking forward to playing with and keeping some of the promises to people like Shivam and some of the other people that I've talked to who we've said online, hey, I'd like to try this. I've already suggested to my son that he and I, with 2 of our friends, try this when we open our next boxes. Like you don't have to spend more to do this. Right. You could just do this if people are going to buy a box of something. Just do this with the box first. Some people might draft their boxes, or you might do this, and then you can still go back and buy some extra packs for a 2-week league, a 4-week league. That's the other thing about it, which is like, what is the optimal number of weeks in which you can add more? I mean, we're doing what, 3 or 4 weeks on top of this?
But we're open-ended at this point. Okay. Like we really haven't made any decisions about how we're going to carry forward. And I think the sentiment has been, again, the people in this league are all really busy people in Magic. Yeah. You know, nearly everybody's busy in their lives. Yeah. But these folks are busy in Magic. So finding additional time each week to play at least one game is really shoehorning them into their schedule. Yeah. So at first, one of the ideas was, okay, I'm going to schedule a game. You know, I'm going to schedule X number of pods every week, and that's the one you have to play. And then, you know, whenever it is convenient for the 4 of you, and then whatever additional games you want to play will be great. Right. But getting some feedback from the folks, it's, let us see if we can find our way through here. Yeah. And instead of making a hard schedule, we're going to basically go, okay, try to find a game each week based on your schedule. If you need some facilitation, because there are a few people that don't know each other that well, right? So the idea is, you know, being I'll be the central hub, and you know, if you haven't gotten a game this week and like, hey, did anybody tell you you're available? I set up a channel on the RC Discord server for the EDH Boxing League, so we can chat through there and set up games. But in the beginning, I want to see how it works with people catching games as they can. And the setup is that it doesn't matter if you don't play a game in a particular week, right? When the new week starts on Monday, you crack your 6 booster packs and add to your pool. And after that, we'll see what happens. Again, this is very pilot programmy. But I really want to get back to the other point about the concern about it being exclusionary, and it's something that we have to do, not just as community, as a Magic community, but in our communities in general, right? We naturally form groups, and groups can get exclusive, and we have to interrogate how we want to add. We have to be welcoming to add new people to our circle, and to me, it's a big responsibility of the high profile people to do that, to engender the welcoming culture.
I agree. I was thinking about this while we were looking over the script and the topics we were going to discuss, and one of the things that occurred to me is if we had done this a year ago, at least a third to a half of the people on the list might have considered themselves not in, right? Like, or other people would have considered them not in, right? Like they would have been like, well, where's this person or where's that person? You only have to go back 1 or 2 years and to see how the face of what is inclusionary or not even has changed. So how could anybody call it exclusionary when clearly it's a demonstration of how inclusive some aspects of the community have become, to new voices and new thinking. Even the role of the community advisory group, I think, has evolved over time, and how they use their voices has evolved. The kinds of shows that are out there, what's popular. Maybe 1 year is not far enough back to go, but maybe certainly 2 or 3 years. I think that we could easily see some rapid evolution. And so, what will it look like then? I don't want you just to pat yourself on the back because what the hell's wrong with you. But yes, go ahead, pat yourself on the back, and also think 2-3 years ahead. Like this could be the start of something, or this could be the start of a practice or a way of thinking that people find ways to get in. It could be a way where each of the people from this league, if we were to take this and do something like this down the road and start an initiative of our own, then you could easily see more and more people. Now, instead of including 12 people, now if each of the 12 includes another 11, suddenly you have another 121 people, who are now included, who are on the in. And, it obviously goes exponential from there. So that's a real neat way, I think, of thinking about it, and a way of thinking of how, the responsibility of starting something like this is that, you're not signing anything in blood, but the basic idea is to say, you understand that we're going to want to do this. This is a tone that Sheldon is setting. This is a tone that we are all setting together, and that we all want to make sure that we're available. I do see it as an opportunity for me to put my own voice and availability out there for folks who want to try this. If you want somebody in your group that's played for a while and has represented a voice in the Magic community and the community community, I would try to make myself available to more groups like that. So I think but I also want to see more people who don't have power, if you will, or don't have as much of a voice. I want to see them establish themselves and open up a league that maybe some of us could join, and to try that. You may not be as available as me or somebody else, but we should also, to the extent possible, content creators who start something like this should also try to join whenever possible. And you do that in games all the time. You join games with folks who don't have shows of their own, who just want to play a cool game with Sheldon. And that's great.
Yeah, I think it's again. I keep going back to responsibilities of leadership, and being a notable personality in a community. I think brings a responsibility of some kind, and it's our responsibility, and who better positioned to bring those new people into our community, to make sure that the barriers are down, so that we can welcome those new people with open arms. You mentioned You mentioned something about the CAG. Did you have time, as we've recorded this, did you have time to see the CAG panel last night?
I didn't catch any panels yesterday. I'm sorry. And part of that is me being old and not getting the interface of what Fireball has set up. And so there might be a slight hump to people who aren't used to Discord. I'm used to it, but I'm not used to it. I don't go deep into it all the time.
Right.
And so...
Well, the panels are on Twitch.
And so getting to the right link for the right app, it's a bit of a barrier for me. It's not insurmountable. With time and effort, I can do it. But the fact that there is a barrier suggests that I just couldn't get there. Was there something that I missed that we should discuss?
No, I haven't gotten to see it either. I was also busy creating other content at that hour last night. So I'd hope that maybe you'd seen it. I've heard via the social media nothing but very positive. It was Shivam, Olivia, and Charlotte. Yeah. And those people on the CAG, they're pretty smart people. Yeah. They're pretty smart, engaging people. Yeah. So
I'm sure they were fine. The kids are all right. They're doing great.
None of them ever light themselves on fire on social media, so it's fine.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. If it was recorded, I may very well catch it later.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it was because I like to go back and see it. Yeah. So I'm sure you're going to hear a little more from the two of this about how this league plays out in the future. I think again, it's a very exciting project. It's one of those things that could be a thing that we just do. 2 years from now, you and Brian and Scott are at an event. It's like, hey, did you bring your boxing league deck? Right.
Or you bust open boxes there.
That gets a little time consuming.
It does. I know.
Sure.
But yeah, I will absolutely like this Broncos deck I'm creating. It's already a lot of fun, and I can easily see it being one that I just hang on to. I don't need to pull cards from it to go somewhere else. It can just stay intact. I could easily see bringing it to a future event already. And I played it, actually one of the games I played yesterday was with it, just to kind of field test it and see what kind of... So I played it against full-blown commander decks. I played it at a level, I think I asked for a level 5. I got a bunch of 6s. It did fine. I didn't win, but I wasn't out first, and I made some waves. It was fun. So it was neat. It was a really cool idea, Sheldon. Thanks again.
Yeah, I'm thinking that the power level should settle out maybe in the early days, slightly below the earlier precons.
Yeah.
And then jump up at a certain point to slightly better than the newer precons.
Yeah, I would agree. If you go at least 4 weeks deep, you only need 2 or 3 weeks for these things to be at a precon level. Especially given I think, if I may dare say, the skill of the dozen or so of us, we're gonna find the right builds, right? And then we're gonna pick the right sets.
I haven't even I've opened my box. I haven't even given any thought, and I really only had one decent choice to build. Yeah. But I haven't given any thought to what the second box is going to be yet, or the second set of packs is going to be, because
I've given it thought. Yeah, no. You can't play Sultai without at least looking at the Scars of Mirrodin block and looking at the possibility of poison. And I probably won't do it early because I don't want my deck to be the one that everybody goes, oh my god, poison, and blow it up. But I could see if we go 4, 5, 6 weeks deep, at some point the pull will be inevitable, and I'll finally build my first poison based after 60, 70, however many decks I built. My first actual poison, I will finally succumb and build my first poison commander deck.
Yeah, I would think that Tarkir block would be exciting to you if you were.
Cons is actually the first. It's first up. Yep, you got it. That's week 1. I looked at when I reviewed the commons and the uncommons, because the rares are a grab bag. I don't need more rares. I'm fine. I'm good. Right. But those commons and uncommons and the stuff I need to replace, I have about 6 to 10 slots I'd really like to replace. And I just need good solid commons and uncommons. I looked through my collection at what the commons and uncommons were for cons, and I was like, this is the one. War of the Spark also looks good for it.
Oh yeah, and I don't even have to acquire. I have 2 boxes, I think, of War of the Spark sitting there in the closet. So I might just go there. What's my other box?
Yeah, well, if you want to sell 6-packs, let me know.
I have I think I have a Throne of Eldraine in there that is unopened as well.
Yeah,
that I got some packs from.
Well, I look forward to seeing what you built, sir. I look forward to playing a game or 2 with you as well. And thanks again, much appreciated.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Like I said, you'll definitely hear more of this. The Commander Boxing League, both here on Commander Community, probably over on the Command Chair, and on my articles on Star City Games. This is becoming a bigger and more exciting project than we ever thought.
Yeah.
But let's move on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Magic the Gathering is about the gathering, as A Block proved, substantially, mathematically proven now. So in here,
it's science, man.
Mathematically and scientifically proven. And here on Commander Community, we like to recognize those who go above and beyond in making the gathering worth it.
This week's Commander Contributor of the Week is Brian Canada. Brian has a Commander YouTube channel called Cure for the Common Game, in which he covers his never-ending journey to build a deck of each possible commander. You heard me right. If you include cards, that's 949. If you don't include the ones, it's 989. If you don't include the uns, it's 948. Until
the new Commander product releases, at which point he's screwed.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking like he's gonna get there. He's gonna I'm there, and then Studio X off the top rope. Here's 70 new legendary creatures.
Right. Yeah. Oh, so sorry, Brian. So sorry. You had Brian on the Commander RC Twitch stream, and you celebrated deck number 600, which was written Seri. And by the way, 600 decks, viable, playable, commander deck. Somebody asks him, "Hey, I got a commander deck." This guy could go, almost a couple of years already now, and never play the same one twice, once a week or once a day.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, he said that he rolls a D6 and 2 D100s to determine which deck he's going to play at any time.
That's a riot. 2 D100s and a D6.
Right. So it's easy to think that community contributors should be someone who's donating to charitable causes or doing that kind of work in the community, and we certainly will continue to celebrate those folks in the future as we have in the past. But I think that's not the only thing that makes up a community member.
No, this is about being in this case, it's about being an aspirational figure, right? We want to recognize those as well. So Brian's undertaking a massive personal project that. Many of us, hopefully all of us, think is really cool. But most of us wouldn't have the time or resources to do ourselves.
Yeah, I asked Brian when he was on the stream. I was like, "So did you just tell your kids, too bad you're not going to college?"
I assume he has them involved in building the decks at this point, whatever their age.
Well,
they're doing something.
His kids are all grown and past college age.
That actually makes sense. I should know this.
His kids are grown and past college age, and he used to own a game store, so he had the product. He said he doesn't actually buy that much product. He's just had this really large collection forever.
Right.
So he keeps updating. Obviously, he buys cards from new sets and everything. Yeah. But for the most part, he had stuff laying around. Think about the logistics of sleeving 600 decks.
Right. There's that. Yes. So you got your 600 times 100. All right. Yeah. No, that's a lot of sleeves. And you got to store them. So I assume that family members are thrilled about that.
Well, he's built a shrine to this project in his basement. Yeah. So he uses the shelf that he built as the background for his YouTube channel.
Right.
So he's sitting he's sitting in front of the wall. It's a brick wall with some with a big
600
sort of lattice work of shelves with with the decks all up on there, and he started them, and apparently he's kept them in order of when he built them.
I think it's probably the best way to organize them at this point, because I'm sure spreadsheets are involved and things like that. Otherwise, I haven't caught too much of the. I've caught them on Twitter, but I haven't caught too much of the the regular YouTube content. But if I were to undergo something like this, what would drive me nuts? One of the things that would drive me nuts would be okay. So let's say I want to find a new commander emerges and it uses a card. I know I only have one, like Liliana the Veil. That happens to be a card off the top of my head. So I have one copy of Liliana the Veil, and I probably put it in another black deck, 350 decks ago. Mm-hmm. How do I know for sure where Liliana the Veil is, so that I don't have to go through every deck that might have black in it, try to figure out where it was? Because that sort of thing happens to me now with a fraction of those decks, with a tenth of those decks. And if I know I want something, it sometimes takes me a little bit of time. So I assume a spreadsheet of some sort or some sort of database is probably involved at this point to be able to locate cards in case he wants to. I don't suggest he has to optimize all his decks, but I also know he's not just throwing together. He's doing it with some sort of purpose. Otherwise, anybody can build. Here's a commander. I'll just throw. Here's 9. Here's 60 cards and a bunch of basic lands that happen to fit the colors. Who cares? No, he's doing it much more carefully than that. So. Yeah. He's thinking about the synergy there. Does he ever want to pull a card from an older deck, put it in a newer deck? That's where I would get stuck, and maybe that's just my own personality at work.
Yeah, maybe he's one of those Rain Man kind of people where he knows exactly where every card is.
If he does, bless him. I'll go back to my aspirational. Like, I really do believe what I love about the project is that it proves to us how important it is sometimes to focus on the journey rather than the destination. Yes. Because we're never going to get to somebody's told Brian he's never going to get there, right? Like, he knows. I hope I'm not the first one to say it. Brian, I'm so sorry. But even if he never makes it, like, it really is about that journey and about that desire to keep creating regardless of the circumstances, because the creation, the journey, and the destination will be, however many he's created, it will be more than anybody.
That's one of the reasons we had him on the stream, is because we wanted to celebrate this accomplishment. 600 decks. Think about 600 decks. That's one a week for more than 10 years. Yep. That's one a day for a year and 3 quarters. Yep. It's crazy. It's just like the amount, and again, he has the YouTube channel to sort of drive the creation, but he's still going to do the work. And you and I know that building a deck is not the easiest thing, even if you're sort of mailing it in. Right.
Well, I took with a single box of Ikoria sealed, I took probably way too much time over the last week, just taking it and refining it and shuffling it and testing it out and just sort of seeing, is this going to flow the way I want to flow? I don't want to take up everybody else's time, even in our boxing league, I'm not even talking about my own time. I don't want to waste other people's time with a deck that doesn't do something fun and creative and thoughtful. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to do something that's going to be like, oh, that was really cool that Alongi put that together. And so assuming he's taking the same approach, like we take so much time doing this. And I think it's a noble way to spend your time, because it's a creative, thoughtful endeavor. And again, like, he will hit, I'm sure he'll hit 700 decks, 800 decks, maybe he'll hit 1,000 decks before he's done. And nobody, I would say that when he hits these higher numbers, nobody's going to be able to replicate this. Nobody's going to be able to, it's going to be impossible.
This is DiMaggio stuff right here.
When he started, it was maybe sort of like, well, maybe Wizards will stop printing Legends or something, or maybe not print them as many, or maybe Commander won't really take off as much as it's already started. Like, you could maybe see that maybe other people could do this. So there is no starting point now where anybody goes, yeah, I bet you I could do that. Like they're going to look at that, and then they're going to look at him and they're going to say, oh, hell no. It's going to be tough. And and I only mean that in the most positive sense. Like it's a stunning achievement. It's
I think it would take a team of people. If you started right now, it would take a team of people to do it. And the cool thing is we get to live vicariously through this. Yeah. And that to me is amazing that the rest of us can go along with Brian on his journey. Yeah. So I agree with you. He might never be done, but him just making the effort earns him recognition as our community contributor of the week.
All right.
So last week, Magic celebrated the 27th anniversary of being released at Gen Con in Milwaukee in 1993. Yeah. I happen to have been there. I knew Wizards of the Coast as an RPG company, and their supplement, their first supplement was just really, really good. Yeah. And I saw some commotion at their booth in the dealer's hall. So to make a long story short, I picked up a starter and a booster. Now, I didn't play the game until a month later, but when I did, I was immediately hooked. Yeah. I didn't know at the time, but that spur-of-the-moment decision represented a tectonic shift for me personally. It's pretty fair to say it had a giant impact on my life.
Oh, yeah. And on both of ours. In a previous show of ours, I've already did the origin story for me, but I'll just, by quick way of summary, saw a commercial for it, checked it with my wife. Hey, doesn't it look interesting? Yeah, it looks interesting. I get it for her for Christmas. She's like, no, it's not interesting. Why did you think I think it was interesting? and then found some other folks in my family and in my friends who had either started to pick it up or were interested in it, and just started our own group and started playing casual from there. So only ever played casual for a while, and then found out that there's such things as tournaments. Got into some limited formats, occasionally played in tournaments as well. Met people like Steve Port, who runs Legion Supplies and things like I just met other people, met people from Wizards, started writing about it, all that, whatever. So it just the impact on our lives that this hobby has had, it really is. I mean, everybody's life gets impacted by something, right? So sure. It's not like nothing would have happened if Magic hadn't come along. But the fact that Magic came along for each of us has had such a severe and wonderful, impact is really kind of stunning when you think about it. It seems so unlikely.
Yeah, well, you're right. We would have been doing something, even in the hobby. Like Magic never comes along. Nerd culture is still gonna explode around the turn of the century, and we're gonna live in the post Star Wars universe no matter what. Yeah. So we're probably all involved in an hobby at some point. I mean, I was at Gen Con that year because I was running RPGs. Right. Like the RPGA was huge back then. Right. It was before we had online games and stuff. Right. So, there were multiple events that I GM'd for over the course of the weekend, and that they were nice enough to have me out. Interesting story. Yeah. We decided to go late. Like back then, if you wanted to go to Gen Con, you booked your room in January. That was it. That was January, February, or you were just done. It was at the Mecca in Milwaukee, so maybe 25,000 people. It's not like today. Gen Con is a jillion people in a city like Indianapolis that is built around conventions. That the downtown is now built around convention. This was just going to Milwaukee because it was the closest to TSR at the time. Right. Yep. Closest kind of big city to TSR. So we didn't decide that we were going to go until like May. Okay. And I was like, there are no hotels to be had. The RPGA got me a ticket, got the tickets and everything, but I'm like, I called the Gene Raby, who was the president of the RPGA at the time. It's like, Gene, I got nothing on finding a room. She's like, okay, let me do something. So she calls me back a day or two later. She's like, I found you someplace. It's about a mile from the hall. But it's a straight shot. You can cab, you can walk if it's a nice day. It's not, it's not the big deal. I was like, sure. So we get there and it's a hotel. And it's a hotel where people live by the week kind of hotel. That Robert Blake might have set a TV show in the 70s. Sure.
Yeah.
kind of
Fun.
kind of place. But there's four of us. There's my ex-wife and my friends Tom and Jay, and we have the nice room in the place. We have the penthouse, as it were, and it's a pretty big 2-bedroom studio. It's really an apartment, not a hotel room. Long story short, we find out after the fact that it's in this hotel room that Jeffrey Dahmer claimed his first victim. And I'm like, I am so glad that we didn't actually look in the refrigerator.
That's a riot. Oh my goodness. Oh.
But we've drifted a little bit. I mean, this discussion that we'd like to have is about the personal positive impact that magic has had on us, not just that we get to enjoy the great hobby, but how we feel it's made us better people, right. and sort of the life skills that we've developed from the game and the community.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. And one of the life skills that clearly you've learned is how to follow the trail of. No. In all seriousness, yes, that is something that we want to make sure that we do cover. For me, the positives of Magic, and you mentioned Dungeons and Dragons or role playing games earlier, and Dungeons and Dragons for me, those have been intertwined. Very, very much so. I'd love to do a future episode just on role playing games, and their connections to the community. A lot of people who are in the Magic community also play role playing games. It'd be kind of a fun topic. But I'll try to parse out the parts that are specific to Magic. And
if you have an idea for a future script,
yes,
you can contact our executive assistant.
Okay, excellent.
And you can submit a script.
Yes.
Your first script will be for exposure only.
Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
People can pay rent.
The opportunity.
Because people can pay rent with exposure.
Just the opportunity, sir, would be enough. Thank you. Right. I would value the opportunity. I think I show some promise.
Right.
I would if I were to separate out.
Sorry, I knocked you off your point.
No, it's all good. If I were to separate out, I can always get back. I take many branches, but I always find my way back to the trunk of the tree, Sheldon. It's okay. I can get there. So the thing about the specific impact of Magic in my life has been mostly external to my family. I mean, like I have a son who plays Magic. My daughter can play and everything. But I think about Dungeons and Dragons as being the family impact hobby, and I think about Magic as being the more external, the people that I never would have met, like you, and I mentioned Steve Port earlier, and other people, and his wife Lindsay, who's running for office now, and who I, like it comes back around to some of the stuff that I do, some of these social loops, but the initial entree and who I found first. Almost certainly, so many relationships that I'm so grateful for come from Magic the Gathering. The Gathering has been so important to me, and I assume to you as well. I mean, like the formation of the Commander format and the judging community. I mean, let's just be so huge for you.
Yeah, certainly the judge community was first. I had gotten involved with that, 7 or 8 years before Commander had, or EDH back then had gotten started. But I think I'm a little different than most folks because I was already a little older when I got involved.
Right.
Magic came out in '93. I was 32 already. So. I'm established in my Air Force career. I'm sort of an adult.
Yeah. Sort of.
By this time. But to me, it was about not just leveraging the skills I already had as an Air Force NCO, but it was about making those skills better. The judge program certainly gave me opportunity to teach myself and to help teach other people about leadership and community involvement and being part of a team.
Right.
Because I think that sometimes America believes in rugged individualism, which is great, but rugged individuals also need to operate as part of a number of different collectives.
Yeah.
Not one giant hive. We're not one giant hive.
Right.
We're members of a bunch of different communities, a bunch of different little collectives that go on to things. So the judge program, I think, was very good at helping me hone my skills of leadership. And it was very good to let me see an even bigger picture. Because, as an NCO, I might have been leading a team of 4 or 5 people. By the time the early 2000s and I got to the top of the judge program, we're talking about thousands.
Right. Agreed.
So those are different skills.
This does open up an interesting line of inquiry, I do have to say, about, like, if we're going to talk about how magic has made us better people, one of the questions we're going to have to ask, Sheldon, is not what the hell is wrong with you now, but what the hell was wrong with you 27 years ago? What the hell was wrong with Sheldon? Fascinating theoretical question for us to throw out there for you and for our viewers.
I think the answer, the honest, if I'm gonna reach down and find the real answer, is that I was more likely back then to drink my own Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
I was full of the confidence and bravado of a young person in the prime of their life, in their especially in their physical prime,
right?
I think there were times 30 years ago that I certainly, or 25 years ago, that I certainly believed myself in a way that at times may have not been entirely justified.
Yeah. Well, that's only fair. I mean, I think it's a very understandable, sort of thing to have, especially if what you're doing is succeeding, if you are making, having some success. I've said it before, I'll say it again, people do what they believe works, right? And it goes back to some of the definitions of culture, from the late 80s and some of the organizational theory that's out there. There's people who say, what is organizational culture? What is personal culture? Culture is essentially a set of behaviors, not only that you do that you believe works, but that you're willing to teach others. Like if you're willing, if you have an organization that operates a certain way, what does it teach its newest members? That's the culture, right? If you are an individual, which we all are, and you meet a friend or have a protege and they ask you, hey, what advice do you have for me, Sheldon? What advice do you have for me, Anthony? And we start giving them advice. We are usually passing on our own personal culture. We're trying to create an organizational culture based on what we believe works. So look, what worked for you and what currently works for you is what works. Nobody should doubt it or necessarily put it down as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. But if it's working for you, it's easy to get that, hey, you know what? I think I figured things out. I'm only 30 years old. I got the world figured out. And you do more than, say, a 16-year-old, to be sure. But and age is not the only factor here. But it does help to have those extra 16 years between 30 and 46, between 46 and 62, and so on and so forth. It helps to have those extra years because they just give you so many repetitions of a certain behavior and so many more data points to check on. And so, over time we learn that what we thought worked, maybe it didn't work as well as we thought it did, or only worked for ourselves, or it only worked for a small group of people who look and think like us,
I think the lesson here over the decades is that when we're younger and a little more full of ourselves, maybe that when we have success, we think it's all about us. That it's validation that we are awesome. And I think age will put that into better perspective. And yes, even when you're primarily responsible for a thing, for a popular thing, for a big thing, it's never all about you. And it's not validation that you're this great person. It's validation that you got something right. It's recognition. Sure, you did the right thing in these circumstances. Does that mean that that you're a candidate for canonization? No. Does it mean that you're not going to make mistakes? No. It means that that you were a person that did a thing and you wanted to. I think the thing is, okay, here are the good things that I did along the way that led to this.
Right.
I want to continue to do those things.
Right.
I think the younger person just plows forward without the benefit of some self-reflection. Whereas as we mature some, we go, okay, sure, here were the good things that I did. Where could things have gone wrong even if they didn't? Or where did things go wrong?
Right.
Because I'll tell you, the times in my life when I've screwed up the worst have been the ones where I was too full of myself.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Same here. One of the life lessons I hope I've learned over time, and magic. I'm going to pull this back into magic a little bit because I think there's a really interesting tie to it. Although you'll be the judge whether it's interesting or not. There's a tie. You decide if it's interesting, Sheldon.
Okay.
Is that there's when you said it's not about you. When I first started playing Magic, especially multiplayer Magic, obviously you want to win, right? And so you're a success if you win, you're a failure if you lose, right? Is an easy self-absorbed way of looking at it. Especially if you got 4 players, and you say to yourself, well, I better be winning, and it's not just about so you win a game and you think, great, I really got this whole Magic thing figured out. You lose, God, I really screwed up this, or you get really upset, or you blame other players for doing something wrong. You didn't understand that player was the biggest threat, and as a result, you hit me, and now you lost the game and you suck. And it all comes down to whether if you won, something went right, and if you lost, something went badly. But that's not the way multiplayer Magic works. It's not the way Commander is designed. Commander is designed over multiple repetitions to teach you, whether you did this intentionally or not. But Commander, because of its multiplayer nature, teaches us that actually it's not the point whether you win or lose. It sounds so mundane, but if you think about it more deeply, the repetitions of games should be teaching us over time, just like the repetitions of days and weeks and months should be teaching us in life, that it is not about us, that it is actually about the pulling together in a family, in a group, a play group, in a community, and those extra reps you get, those extra games you get, should be teaching you something about how it's not all about you or me. And so that idea of how Magic works and what Magic has taught us, how Magic maybe has made us better over time, is in the same way that living additional days and weeks and months has taught us some of the same lessons. It is not about us, it's about others as well. So we should probably start talking about other people sometime soon in this conversation, because it isn't all about us, right? I mean, there's so many people that I owe so much to in the community, and you're one of them, to be sure. But there's just others. You can't name them all. But I just want to say thank you to those of you who've played the games, who play games with me, who have done added content that I've devoured, that I've consumed. The conversations that we've all had, because that's all taught me so much about how I can just be better. It's also taught me better Magic. That's great. But it's also taught me about how to be better. And I'll finish by saying, I certainly have always, my whole life, my parents taught me to be open to different communities, different experiences, different perspectives, different colors of skin, different genders, different gender identities, different sexuality, all these things I was being taught and learning myself without Magic. But there's no doubt that I have learned more in the last 5 years from the social media and other activities of people in this community than I could possibly have learned without them. There's just no doubt. And I'm really grateful to those people, even if I'm made uncomfortable, or I sometimes just disagree with a point. I mean, even people who are teaching me things can be wrong about some things, and I'd be like, I don't know, but I don't care. I don't care if I'm wrong or if they're wrong. What I value is that, geez, here's this other perspective, and I'd better learn what it sounds like, because it's going to be part of my life. And if I want to succeed in the Magic community, I got to be a better person. That's what I
believe wholeheartedly, that while we're not perfect, we're not where we necessarily need or want to be yet. I believe that the Magic community has been an early adopter of embracing diversity.
Right.
And I think the Magic community, again, there are some bad actors.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we're trying to weed themselves out. We're trying to weed them out. But for the most part, on the whole, I believe that the Magic community has been very good at not just embracing diversity, but promoting diversity.
Right.
But saying this is, a diverse culture is good, and this is what we want our normal to be.
Yeah, I had a work experience early on when I lived in Boston, and I worked at an organization, a nonprofit organization, and they did things like welfare to work, helping technical assistance and research on welfare to work. That's neither here nor there, but they were a nonprofit that was serious, thoughtful, highly intellectual, highly practice based as well. And they had an organization about 40, 50 people, and I was one of only 3 white straight males who worked in the whole organization. And that was formative to me in a way about like what I want to live with. I guess I've tried to find a community like that, and the closest I've ever gotten, ever since, that was like 30 years ago, and the closest I've ever gotten is this magic community. And I'm eager to hear from people who know better than I do, where other communities like this exist, or better. Let's keep looking for better models so that we can improve. Let's keep building better models so that we can have it even better. But today I'm about I think you are too. It's about the more positive side, the more gratitude. There's more work to be done, but I want to take a moment and just say thank you to everybody who has taught me about how much further there is to go, because otherwise we there would be stagnation, and there would, or worse, regression. And
well, an opinion that we've expressed on this show before is being careful, especially when you're part of the hegemonic group like you and I are, that dismantle the hegemony first. But when you're supporting diversity issues, doesn't matter actually what the issue is, when you're supporting them, make sure that you're supporting the issue, not pointing the camera back at yourself, going, "Look how woke I am."
Right. Yeah.
Right. We want to build new structures, and when we do that, we can't look at ourselves and go, I'm the one with the shovel in my hand, digging up the dirt to lay the foundation.
Right.
It's this issue is important, and I'm going to do what I can to support it. It's a tough place because people will often come at you like, well, you're just trying to be woke or whatever. I'm like, well, if that's what you think, sure. But we have to I think we have to be on guard against that not being the case. That it's okay for people of the hegemonic group to shut up about things. Yeah. And instead of going, making a big show of how you're being supportive, just be supportive in a way that makes a difference, as well as, as being vocal. When you need to be vocal, be vocal. Right. But when you don't need to be vocal, let the traditionally marginalized groups have their voice. Don't try to co-opt it.
This show represents an opportunity for us to have our voices and to use them. And as many people's experience with me and or you, and so I don't want to pretend that just keep bear in mind if you're watching this and listening to this, it's like, okay, so great, when are you guys going to start doing that? Bear in mind that there are games that we have that are out there. In fact, I'd be fine with whether it's the EDH Boxing League or other games that I have. Anybody who wants to invite me to shut up and just listen, I'm all for that. And I'm also all for anybody who wants to tell Sheldon to shut up and listen to whatever they want to say during a game. You go right on ahead. You do that. You have my permission.
So what you're saying is that anybody can invite you on their show and then tell you to not talk.
Yes. Actually, yeah, if they represent not another white cis het male. No. Okay. But anybody else can if they wanted to. I would do that. You kidding? Well, I'm all for it. I'll just sit there. Or I'll ask questions, right? Probably more usefully to the show. Yeah. I mean, run your show however you want to, folks. But if you want to ask me questions or set me up to get knocked down, well, that's fine. I'll play that role because I think that it's a useful rhetorical role. I think it's a useful symbolic role, and I also think it's a useful learning role for me to hear something different. So yeah, I'm up for that, and I think that it's also something that's just it might just be fun to do too. It might just be fun and learning, and why not? Yeah. Yes, I will commit to that.
Okay.
You're no.
Well, there is still plenty of work to be done in the Commander community, but it's time for us to wrap this episode. If you're watching us on YouTube, please remember to follow, like, subscribe, ring those bells. We'd hate for you to miss an episode in which Anthony's initial question continues to go unanswered. Why don't you tell these folks where they can find you on social media?
I do appreciate you answering the past question, Sheldon. Just want to give you a shout out for that. So we've unlocked. It's like those long TV shows where you think that they're finally going to the will they, the won't they sort of thing, and they start to form that relationship, and you start to go, oh my gosh, there's a little glimpse of what could be. And so we might in a future episode find out what the hell is wrong with Sheldon. You can find me in the meantime.
Which one? Wait a minute. Which one of us is Bruce Willis, and which one of us is Sybil Shepherd?
Wow, that's a reference. That's a reference. For those of you that need to look it up, Moonlighting.
Yes.
So which was classic back in its day. Anthony Alongi on Facebook. Anthony A. Alongi on Twitter.
I'm on Twitter and Facebook by my name, Sheldon Menery. Please tune into my other show, The Command Chair, every Thursday here on Star City Games and on YouTube. Also on Thursday evenings, 8 p.m. Eastern in the U.S. You can catch me on the Commander RC Twitch channel. Also now on Sunday afternoons, 2 p.m. Eastern in the U.S. That's twitch.tv/Commander RC. And finally, on Sundays, you can find me right here on StarCityGames.com, writing about the best format in Magic history. As always, I'm Sheldon Menery.
And I'm Anthony Alongi. Thank you so much for making us part of your community.